the sooner life can get back to a little bit of what it was like before, the better. But we've got to be cautious because I think all Aussies don't want to see happen here what's happened overseas.
Yep.
Think about America for a second. Only, I think 5 or 6 weeks ago, they had about 41 people had died. Now it's, I think, more than 50,000. So this is a virus which, if we're not careful, can kill tens of thousands of people. And that's why the app's important. That's why I've downloaded it. But it's also why the actions that the premiers are taking, following the advice of the chief medical officers, is really important as well.
Just on the New South Wales Premier, there is an announcement that thousands of new homes will be built, Jason, and new industrial complexes, 6 schools as well. What are your thoughts on this announcement?
Well, if it's true, that's a good thing. Think about this for a sec, Pete. Over the last month or so, not a lot of people have been signing contracts to buy new homes. It makes sense when you think about it. If you've lost your job or you've lost confidence, why would you sign a contract for hundreds of thousands of dollars, the biggest investment in your life? Now, before the virus hit, we were thinking that the housing industry would build about 160,000 homes this year. Now, it could be as low as 100,000. If that happens, it'll mean lots of job losses for tradies and small mum and dad businesses who work in the housing game. That's why last week Albo and I said we need the National Cabinet, federal government and the state and territory governments to come up with a plan to look after these people, many of whom could lose their job in the second half of this year after the JobKeeper program has ended. So if the state governments around the country are starting to think of ideas to help to make sure that these tradies keep their jobs and these mum and dad businesses don't hit the wall,
well, numbers for tradies and apprentices had already been low and prior to COVID-19 striking. So, I mean, would you be all for a plan of perhaps ramping up social housing construction?
Well, look, that could be one of the ways to do it. I think the New South Wales government has brought forward the maintenance of some public housing to keep tradies on. Up in the Northern Territory, they're providing vouchers to residents who do renovations to encourage them to get tradies in to do work around the house. I think what the New South Wales government's talking about today is potentially buying apartments or houses off the plan to encourage that investment to happen, where otherwise it might not be happening because you don't have people buying those apartments off the plan. Bottom line is we've got hundreds of thousands of tradies here who could lose their job if we don't take action. The housing industry employs about 1 million people, everything from electricians and carpenters, plumbers, bricklayers, tilers, all the way through to the businesses that produce the cement, the timber, the plasterboard, the whole box and dice. And whenever we've had a big crisis, think about after World War II, it involved building houses to build the recovery. The US did it after the Great Depression as well. So we need to be thinking now about recovery, and a strong housing industry with tradies not losing their jobs is a big part of that.
I mean, but the government, I guess, would say that, they've got the JobKeeper allowance and they've also got the 50% of wages that will be guaranteed for apprentices and trainees. That was the second stimulus package that was announced a couple of weeks ago. So are you saying above all of that?
Well, the JobKeeper package is a good one. That's why we backed it. But keep in mind that starts in March and finishes in September. What the housing industry is telling me is that the real problems are going to emerge after that. If someone was to buy a new home today, they'd sign the contract and the concrete slab would be poured in about 4, 5 or 6 months' time. So there's a real risk that the pipeline of new projects will run dry. It's already running dry. And that means that after the JobKeeper program ends in the second half of this year, we might find a lot of tradies out of work.